the moment we've all been waiting for. Here we go. The winner of The Voice is Todd Tilghman. Congratulations.
Wow. I can't believe this because we have a real star here. Over on the other screen is Todd Tilghman. I just watched you win The Voice.
Man, I appreciate it.
That was 2020, right?
Yeah. Yes,
and
sir.
It was season 18. Is that correct?
That's right. Yes, sir.
And you brought a school
I appreciate
class?
You letting me be on here.
And
yeah, what's that?
You brought a school class with you to watch it? You had a whole, what was it? What grade school was it?
Ball team. Yeah, that's all of my family, my wife and all my kids on screen there with me.
That's your family?
Yes, sir.
You're like 19, 20 years old. How did you have so many kids so quick?
Well, it's one of those things. And people always ask me how it happens, and I tell them go ask their mom and dad.
Don't ask me. Okay. Todd, I'd like to ask you. I'm really interested in this voice thing.
Yeah.
I'd like to start right out. If that's okay, I'd like to start right out with that because
sure.
I've never met anybody from The Voice before. I have a voice, but I've never met anybody from the TV program, The Voice. I don't even know how it works. But can you tell me a little bit about your journey of how you even got on that program? Did you write to them to get on it?
The way it worked for me, in 2019, believe it or not, actually the early part of the year, I was just singing songs on Instagram, honestly, and a friend, really an acquaintance, really saw one and sent me a message on Instagram, and the message had like a little link to audition, to sign up, register to audition open call, which is also known as cattle call, for The Voice, which thousands and thousands of people, they don't show that on TV on The Voice, but they do on American Idol, where you see thousands of people lined up, but it's the same.
Do they go to different locations? They go to different locations to find you? Or?
Yeah, they go all over. Yeah. And you register for whatever city you want to audition in. For me, it was Atlanta, Georgia. That was the closest to me. And so I signed up on Instagram to go as how it originally started. In the meantime, because there were months between registering and the actual audition, and in those months, I sort of had decided not to go. But my wife kind of chimed in then, as she does often, and she reminded me of all those things we've told our kids about taking risks and doing crazy things because you feel like it's the right thing. And she kind of told me, it's like, Todd, if you're going to tell our kids to do these crazy things and you're afraid to do them, then what good is it to the kids? And so she was right, I guess. And so I took her advice.
How did they audition you when they went to the Atlanta, you said?
Yeah, when we went to Atlanta, Georgia, there's thousands of people. Basically, in a nutshell, they sort of break you down into groups. Ultimately, you end up in a group of 10 people, and you go into a room where there's a representative from the show, and you go in there and you have 30 seconds to sing. You don't have any music or anything. You just sort of have to stand there. Though I don't know how they're all set up, but the way that ours were set up is there were 5 chairs on one side and 5 chairs on the other, and they were maybe 8 feet apart, and you're sort of just staring at each other, and there's a red X right in the middle, and you just stand on that X and do the best you can. And if they like you, you get to go a step further.
So you go a step further. I'm with you so far. I'm just trying to figure this out. What is the next step?
It's just callback auditions. There's different levels to the auditions, and ultimately, if they decide that you have the talent and you would be a good fit for the show, which I'll be honest, I don't know what the criteria is. Clearly, it's not super strict or stringent because I made it on, So if it want, there are a few steps to the audition process, but once they decide that you have the talent and you're a good fit for the show, you get a blind audition. You get to sing for those 4 coaches people who watch the show know what that is. The chairs are turned the other direction and they can't see you. You go out and sing, and if they like you, they turn the chair around. You can choose to be on their team.
Do they all turn their chair around?
They did, believe it or not, they did. Backstage, there were people back there. We're talking, and the way that it worked, it was getting late in the day, and I was getting, my anxiety was building and building and building, and someone asked me backstage. They were like, "Well, hey, which one of these coaches, would you like to go on? Which team would you want to be on?" And I was like, "Man, look, I'm gonna tell you what, I'm gonna go on whichever team turns around, whichever one of them turns around." And so when they all four turn, or really any multiple over one, you get to choose. But thank God, it was just a surreal moment for me. All of them turned around, and I got to choose.
Okay, now you're on The Voice, and I understand it was right in the middle of COVID. Is that correct?
Yeah. Once I made it on the show, we went for battle round and knockout round. And then once I made it through that, we went back home, and we were supposed to fly back for live rounds, and COVID. We were supposed to go back in April, and COVID hit in March. And so everything, we didn't know what was going to happen. But what The Voice did was they came up with a pretty, really ingenious way to pull off the show. And so we still pulled it off from where we were.
Did you have to stay there then, or did you get to go home every weekend?
When I was during the live shows, we never went back. We were just home. Now, when I did the earlier rounds, the blind audition, the battle round, and the knockout round, we were there. We were there for our blind audition for a period of time, and to get until we got the blind audition filmed. Then we flew home. Then we went back and filmed the battle round and the knockout round. Then we flew back home, and we were supposed to fly back for live shows, but we never flew back. Now,
before I get any farther, you just said that you had, you were on Instagram or something. Is that where you started at? They saw you.
That's how this all started. Yeah.
So you weren't really a professional singer. Is that correct?
No, I have gladly. I am glad to say I up until that point, I had only sang in church. Nothing. No, I'd been invited to sing in wedding ceremonies, but I had never even been invited to be the reception singer.
So now you're big time. Millions of people are watching you on television. I'd like to know, because I'd be very nervous, what kind of feelings you had as you went through this, and you went from round to round. And I mean, What kind of feelings did you have, Todd? You've never been doing this before.
It was, honest to God, man, it's wild. It's weird because, no kidding, and I mean this in the most sincere way. I don't want to come across I don't want to be so pitiful or anything. I literally, from the blind audition, I just kept thinking every round was my last round and I was going to get cut and go home. So I don't understand why I was nervous, because I was expecting to get kicked off. But either way, man, the nerves were I don't want to say in control, but they were fighting. They were fighting for control, man.
Now you were on Blake Sheldon's team, is that correct?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, so you got to meet Blake Sheldon. We can talk about that later.
Yeah.
But having somebody like that watch you and train you, did that sort of make you a little nervous and anxious?
Yeah, it did to a degree, but I will say my strategy going in, first of all, I felt like when I had the opportunity to choose, I mean, I'm trying to do this. I'm even trying to do this in priority order. First of all, I felt like Blake was more like me as a person, just our personalities and the way we interact with people. So that sort of calmed it a little bit. Second of all, I did feel like Blake is more laid back and easygoing. And so, because there were other coaches that are geniuses, all four of them are very accomplished artists and genius in their field. But for example, John Legend was a coach, and John's been really great to me even since the show. But John has a reputation for being very particular, and so that made me really nervous. You know what I mean? And then finally, one of the reasons I picked Blake is because I had done some research, and Blake seemed to be a fan favorite. So I said all that to say, when I went, we had sessions with Blake. live and in person, and then over, some kind of video conferencing app, whatever that may be. They got more and more easy, because my nerves more came from the fact that he's just this superstar, and I'm just this regular guy walking in. The music part of it, Blake knows he's business when it needs to be business, but he's a lot of fun, so that relaxed the nerves a lot.
Okay, now I'm ready for the finals. I saw there were 5 people that you were competing with.
Yes.
And I saw you with, we'll talk about your family in a few minutes, but you were standing there, and tell us a little bit what it's like to be in the finals and finally pick. Go ahead.
By the time we reached the finale, for me, and I feel like for all those other finalists, they're all friends of mine. I'm still very, very close with 1 or 2 of those guys to this day. But for me, once we reached the finale, that was a win. I mean, I kept thinking every week is my time to go home. And even though in the remote times we were technically at our homes, but so just making the finale for me really did feel like a win. I felt like I got way further than I ever dreamed I would get. And so there's sort of like a contestant. I don't know. She has a title and I forget it. And she's very helpful to us. And so she comes on the speaker, which is on a little tablet that we have, because of course we're remote. We're not there. And she says to us, they're going to come back from commercial and they're going to announce the winner after commercial, because we were expecting them to announce 3rd place, 2nd place winner, because they had already announced 5th place and 4th place. And so when she said they were just going to go straight to the winner, then I went straight to my children and I said, whenever they announce the winner, y'all just smile and clap and they'll take us right off the screen. So when they said my name, I was taken by surprise. It really was a blur. I don't really remember.
Do you remember any of that at all? Do you remember them?
I remember a little. I remember Carson. I mean, I remember the nerves of waiting. I remember standing there and them saying, the winner of The Voice, and TV, they do this super long pause. You just saw it at the beginning of this program. They do this super long pause. And so in that time, it's like in my brain, I'm thinking, all right, Todd, it's almost like you're preparing yourself not to look disappointed. You know what I'm saying? When they announce the winner. And so when they said my name for a minute there, not for an extended period of time, I don't remember very much. The next thing I remember is the contestant manager, the girl that was helping us, the lady that was helping us. I remember her calling my name again through the tablet because there were some press things that we had to do. And that's the next thing I remember.
Okay, I got another question for you. And this is something that I've been interested in ever since we saw that first video. I just met you today. And Blake, I do like you. I want to tell you that right now. You are very
thank you. I like you,
young man, and we're friends. So I saw that big group around you, and you said it's your family. I would like to know a little bit about how you got so many kids. I mean, are you like
It's funny because my wife and me we dated through high school. We married in 1998. We were super young.
How young?
I was 20 years old and she was 18 years old when we married.
You started dating in high school. What grade was it?
Man, when we met, it's hard to remember exactly when we started dating. When we met, she would have been like 7th or 8th grade. She would have been 13 when we met. When we started dating, maybe she was in 8th or 9th and I would have been in 10th or so, or 11th. I'm 2 years older than her. And so we dated, you know how dating goes. We broke up a few times here and there. And then ultimately we ended up getting married. And I got to say, man, we've been married almost 25 years. And anybody that's watching that's married for any extended period of time knows it's not a walk in the park all the time, but we've made it through. And so, man, it's funny because we always tell this as a joke, but I guess it's not really much of a joke, as you can tell. But when we first got married, I always say my wife wanted 3 kids and I wanted 2 kids. And so we compromised on 8 kids. It just
Did I hear that right?
Did
I hear that right? 8 kids?
Yeah, we have 8 kids. Yeah. I mean, our family is built different. We're not a blended family in that we've been married to one another the whole time, and all of our biological kids are between the two of us. But we do have adopted children. So our family is put together in a unique way. We do have two daughters who are adopted from South Korea. Our family kind of got built in a little bit of a different way, and there were a couple of kids, and I realize what people will say and what they'll think, and I understand it. But there were a couple of kids in there that were just God's will that they're here. They surprised us, and so, but they're here now, and so we have a vibrant circus of a family.
So you got 8 kids,
Yes, sir.
ranging in that's 10. Let's see, 8 is
10 of us total, 8 kids, but 10
8
of
kids.
us.
Okay, 10 in the family. Okay, can you go through the ages of the kids? Because there's got to be a wide age group there, isn't there?
It is. Yeah, there's a 16-year span. We have 23 years old, 19 years old, 18, 14, 13, 10, 9, and 7.
Keeps you busy, doesn't it?
It does, yeah, but it's in a good way. There's people ask us how we do it, and I always say we're not doing it. We're not succeeding at it. What we do is at our house, you sort of have to learn to let go of control a little bit. I mean, we do our kids have boundaries and we have rules and things like that, but it's going to be a little wild. And also, you have to learn to make a little bit of meat and a whole lot of rice or noodles go a long way.
Do you mind if I take another left-hand turn and talk about something that I'm pretty interested in? I think our abundant audience would be interested in it too.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I'm very interested because you told me when we first met that you are a minister at 18 years old. Have I got that correct? Okay.
That's right.
Okay, I want you to tell me how at 18 years old you got that degree and became a minister.
Oh, I don't know. And I will say, when I started in ministry, I was in the process of being licensed and getting all of the degrees and paperwork and all of that stuff, that you get. I was in the process of that. It was more of a volunteer position when I was 18. It's weird, the denomination that I am part of, the process is a little different. So the licensing is sort of spread out. There are 3 levels, and I was licensed in the first level, which would be an exhorter. I would have been 19 or 20 by the time I got that license, but I was just volunteer youth minister, which is always, now looking back, it's hilarious because there were kids in the youth group that were 6 months younger than me, but I was but you know what, man, it was a baptism by fire in a lot of ways, but we made it through.
What kind of church was it? What is the denomination?
The denomination that I am licensed in and still a part of is Church of God, the Cleveland, Tennessee Church of God. There's a few different ones. I'm licensed to the one in Cleveland.
Little milder than yours.
What's that? I'm sorry.
There's one in the north near us, which is probably a little milder than the one in the south.
Yeah. The one that I'm licensed with is fully like Spirit-filled, kind of Pentecostal. So it can get a little rambunctious.
This one up here is one that Gloria Gaither actually went to.
Oh yeah, cool.
Throw that in. Another name
awesome.
dropper. I thought I'd like to drop that name. Anyway, I would like to know a little bit about this journey in the ministry. Were you a preaching minister at 18?
Yeah, I didn't preach as much, but some. The first time I ever preached, I remember my text was weeping lasts for the night, but joy comes in the morning. And I remember I was finished. I will never forget this. I was finished with all of my notes in like 5 minutes. And so I had to just figure out something to do. So now to this day, I guess I'm not the person to ask whether I'm a good preacher or not. You'd have to ask somebody else that. But I do feel like I've gotten at least a little better through the years.
I can tell from just talking to you that I would love to be in your church. You have that winning person. I can see how
thank you.
You work so well with youth. But from there, you became a minister of your own church. Is that correct?
Yeah, I became lead pastor of the same church. I was at the same church from the time I was 14 years old until I was 42. I was lead pastor for about the last 10, not quite 10, but almost 10 years, the last 10.
Did they ever call you back to preach?
No, I haven't been back since. You know how it is when things like that happen, and things. It's been so long that you were there, and then I don't. Church transitions can be dicey, and so I've sort of kept my hands off of it.
What a great story. That I got one question as it ties back with The Voice. Does it hurt at all to be a Christian and be on The Voice with the music they choose and things like that? Or did you have any problems?
No, that to me, even for me going in it, all that is a misconception that I love to quell every opportunity I get. They were great to me. My faith and the music that we did, they never forced me to do anything, or tried to make me do something that I didn't want to do. And other artists, they would tell them, even if there's a song that they wanted to do, but maybe there was one word that they didn't want to sing, they would try to work around that, and so they were very, very, very good to me, I would say.
That sounds really wonderful. I would like to know this thing too, in case we actually were on Abundant TV and people enjoy you like I'm enjoying you. I just wonder, off the cuff, a couple of questions about contacting you and
Okay.
how somebody that really wants you. I understand first that I got you on a good day because tomorrow you're going to the Ark. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm headed out. I'm literally heading out before the sun comes up in the morning to head up to Williamstown, Kentucky to sing at the Ark Encounter for the 40 days and 40 nights of Christian music that they have up there.
And I also know you've been to the Grand Ole Opry with Blake
Yeah.
Shelton. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. That was just a remarkable experience, and hopefully I'll get to go back there again sometime soon. That was great too.
And you've been to pretty big venues, so and most of the people we're talking to in Abundant belong to churches. They don't belong to the Grand Ole Opry or thing. So let's start there. Is it sort of useless to try and somebody call you and try and get you to go to a church?
Oh no,
Or you go to
I
church?
go. Yeah, I go to lots of churches. Most of what I do, not all, but most of what I do is either a faith church sponsored event, or actually at a church on Sunday. I'm in, usually if the schedule's like it normally is, I'm in a different church most every Sunday somewhere in the world, mostly in the United States. But yeah, so I go to churches all the time.
Now, are most of your churches you go to in the South, or do you travel all
Um,
over?
I travel all over. Now, I would say if I were to map it all out, it would probably, the majority would be sort of south-ish, but I've been all over, man. I've been in Montana and California, and up in Michigan, and down in Florida, and over in Texas and stuff, and been out in Arizona. So yeah, I go all wherever people invite me to go. I'm happy to go.
Because I used to be a pastor, and we used to run concerts all the time. And one thing I always wondered, a small church, could a small church afford you to come?
Honestly, that's a hard question. Now, usually we try. I don't really make those decisions. I have a booking person that makes those decisions, but we do try our very, very best to make sure that we can accommodate everybody that we can. There have been a couple of times where, like, a couple of churches came together because they were kind of too small to, and so they came together and made it happen. But I've been to several small churches. As a matter of fact, small churches really do hold like a really special place in my. Last week, I guess. Yeah, it was last week. I was in North Carolina at a little church, and I don't know, they just have a really special place in my heart. So if we can work it out, and my booking people really do try to make it work, then we do it.
It sounds really great. Can you just tell us before we go into some things maybe you want to talk about, or maybe we'll close? I'd just like to know a little bit about how, because we just scratch the surface. If somebody's listening there on Abundant TV and they want to contact you, what do they do to contact you or your agent to be able to discuss the particulars of the dates they can come, where you're going to be at, and those kind of things?
Yeah, the very best thing to do is to go to toddtofficial.com. There's literally a link on my website. If you go to the menu,
it's down here too,
booking
across the bottom. It's running across the scroll. Yeah.
Scrolling across the bottom there. There's a booking link right there, and they can go to that and fill it out. And it's, as a matter of fact, we've had several questions about, there are different, like one of the questions, I think, and I might be wrong because I don't handle this really all, but I think one of the questions is budget. If you don't know your estimated budget, just leave that blank. Don't worry about that. You can submit it, and the booking agent and her company will do their very best to work with you. That's the very, very best way. Now, if you reach out, I'll be honest, if you reach out on social media, you can send a message. I'm going to be super honest. I'm not the very best at checking social media messages, but we have booked things that way as well. But the website's the number one best way.
Okay, we're getting down near the close, and I never like to end a program without talking a little bit about our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to ask you some questions.
Okay.
One answer to another, and some people think it's real difficult.
Mm-hmm.
How difficult it is to accept Jesus Christ as your Savior? Do you have to go to a certain church, like the Church of God? Do you have to believe a certain doctrine? What exactly do you have to do if somebody out there is wondering how they get to know Jesus Christ and guarantee they go to heaven? Can you answer that question?
I guess it could be a tough question, but I always like to say the same thing. I just put myself in Paul's shoes, and Paul said, whatever I do, wherever I go, I determine that I don't know anything except Christ crucified, and that's all I know, And so that's kind of how what I believe, and what I believe the scriptures will back up is, if you put your faith in Jesus, in the sacrifice of Jesus, in the resurrection of Jesus, if you put your faith in Jesus, then that's really all it takes. And it's for sure a remarkable first step. I believe that God is revolutionary. I believe that Jesus is revolutionary, that he revolutionizes us. He changes us. That's what I mean by that. But you can come to him just like you are. Even in worship, I tell people all the time, if you don't know how to worship, but you do feel your heart sort of positioning itself toward the Lord, just say, thank you, Jesus, or I love you, Jesus. That's a good start, And so if people want to know the Lord, I can tell them, we do have the Roman road, confess with your mouth the Lord Jesus and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead. And I believe in that. Put your faith in Jesus, and I really do believe, at least for first steps, that's all it takes. It's a life of obedience after that, and it's a learning thing, but that's all it takes.
Sometimes we pastors try and make it too difficult.
Yeah, complicated a lot, we do.
For God so loved the world that he gave his only Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting
life.
That's as simple as you get it. Believe it with your heart, mind, and soul, and you're on your way with Todd and me to heaven, and you can meet the star of the voice up there. Right, Todd?
Hopefully I'll meet you down here.
Yeah, that'd be nice if they would, wouldn't they? Well, thank you very much, Todd.
Thank you.
We loved having you tonight, and we're going to say goodbye right now. Wave goodbye, Todd.
Thank you, man. Thanks so much.